Well, hello there, you amazing, amazing, beautiful, wonderful people. It's Monday. It's Monday. A new week. A new week. I wonder what will happen. I always go into new weeks with excitement, anticipation of what we'll learn. Will we have any conclusions to the multitude of things that we see? And will there be any happiness at the end of it? Or will we look back on this week at the end of it thinking, fuck me, not again? Anyway, let's get straight into the meat and potatoes, as we are sticking with Jay Slater for video one. We are talking about Bryan Kohberger later because a lot of people have reached out, reference Bryan Kohberger. They've asked me to talk about some of the videos that are currently doing the rounds, the circulation. Jay Ombre, for instance, is continuing to do his investigations into the case. I've had some people reach out that are very, very smart and are also looking into this case and finding things. My man Eddie. So yeah, keep your eyes peeled as we will be talking about that later. But for now, we're talking about Slater. Fuck it, I rhymed again. Completely unintentional. That's what happens when you're multi-talented, you see. Some things just pop out by accident, including rhyme. Anyway, what are we talking about? We're talking about the Jay Slater case, and we're talking about it for one reason. Because people want information. They want to know. They want to know what happened. We have this innate curiosity that we just can't let things drop. We hear things, we see things, and we become entwined in the stories. How many of you, let me know down below, will wake up and one of the first things you do will be to go to Google and Google Jay Slater news, Jay Slater latest, to find out if there is something that has come out that is going to answer some of the questions that you have. But ultimately, at the moment, we are waiting for the family to make their move. This entire case is like a game of chess. And currently, we are on the clock and we're waiting for the family to make their move. The repatriation process, get Jay back to the UK and see whether the family are willing to let sleeping dogs lie, or whether they will indeed look to push for further investigations, whether they will want answers from certain people who are around Jay at the time that this all happened or not. But why I'm still talking about it is very simple. I personally feel there's a lot of questions still around this, and I've said previously, if Jay were a relation to me, if I had skin in the game, I would not be satisfied with what I've been shown. Very similar to some of the other cases that we see. Do you know what I mean? Like Sean Dockey, for instance. You know, the young lad who sadly, tragically lost his life, and they tried to say that it was self-inflicted. For me, I can't let that story drop because it doesn't make sense. And the same with the Jay Slater case. It doesn't make sense. Now, could it be simply that Jay Slater did leave the Airbnb and took this route and succumbed to a tragic fall? Certainly could. It could be, but in my opinion, it's the least likely without there being influencing factors. But what I'm trying to get at, I suppose, is that there are a lot of people who are in the same position that I am, where they want answers, they want to know what happened, and they will continue to try to find it. And when you've got people like Ayub Qasim, Rocky, for instance, now coming out, and they are alluding to the fact that there is more to know. There is more of a story to be learned, and they are offering a way of getting to that access, or you're accessing that information, then it leaves people in a very vulnerable position. It's very similar to, say, we have members-only videos. People will become members just to get to that information, you know, and it's something that some content creators do provide. They will provide members-only videos, or they will say, like, go to my Patreon. I've got information on there that I can't bring on YouTube, because they know that people will pay for this information. And, you know, I am caught between a rock and a hard place, because I'm aware that I've got a lot of members on here, and I want to do members content, but equally, I also don't want to feel like I'm alienating people who are not members. So I will start to do things for members, but do you know what I mean? I do feel that people, everybody who is on here, should have the ability to have access to the content. So it might be that members get timing benefits, so they will access things quicker. But anyway, I digress. But yeah, people become very vulnerable when they are seeking information, and that information is being offered by certain people. So look, in the Jay Slater case, I think that there is a phrase that is very, I suppose, something to consider, and that is the loose lips sink ships, because they do. Loose lips do indeed sink ships. So you have to consider this. You have to first of all look at Kasim and think to yourself, look, do I consider Kasim to be a viable source of information? And is he somebody who I could trust to give me that information? And would I believe him if he gave me some information? Or is Ayub a chancer, someone who has seen a situation where he is kind of business savvy to understand, look, there's an opportunity here to make money, and I can manipulate the public into joining my group of people who do want the truth, and I can play into that and obtain something from it. I can business model it, scale it into something that's an earner. You know, Ayub, to me, he doesn't seem like a murderer. He doesn't seem like someone who is clever enough to have, done anything beyond being part of a bigger piece, a bigger picture. He could very well be a player within a game, and there are layers within that game, and I would say that he is not the top tier player in it. But equally, could he know something? He could indeed know something, but what I also know is that Ayub Kasim has no intention whatsoever of saying anything that is going to incriminate him. So if people are considering going to Ayub to learn something that is going to satisfy your desire for hearing that this wasn't anything more than Jay Slater wandered off, this was self-inflicted, there was no influencing factors, it was just him doing something stupid that led to his demise, then you're not going to find an alternative through Ayub Kasim. You can't have your cake and eat it with Ayub. You've either got to consider that he is nefarious, that he somehow played a part in that, what happened to Jay, or you're going to consider him completely disjointed from what happened and can just tell you, some boring stuff, perhaps, that he did spend some time with Jay and he will just reiterate what is the primary story that you've already seen, read, and heard. Do you know what I mean? You're not going to get anything more than that from Ayub. But what I will say is, if there are lies around this case, there are a lot of moving parts. Now, I think it has been proven that some of the things that have been said. Now, there's this here. Now, this guy here, Peter Hyatt. Now, he did, if you go on to Peter Hyatt's channel, he did a look at Lucy's statement and picked apart some of the things that she had said. And, he is somebody who works for law enforcement and like a behavioural specialist. He looks at what people say, how they say it, reads body language, the verbiage used, and, he's good at what he does. And he had stated back sort of a month ago that he felt that Lucy was lying. She wasn't being honest and upfront about what she was saying. And I suppose you then have to consider, was there something going on this evening that spiraled out of control and led to what happened to Jay, and they want to distance themselves from that? You've got a lot of TikToks being shown at the moment. It does seem to appear to show Jay dealing around the NRG festival, and I feel that that is potentially one of the most plausible stories here, that they got involved in something, and whether it was, and I said this the other day, whether it was a chemically induced issue or it was an environmental issue that caused his demise, then they are I feel that they're the only two options here. So I suppose what I'm saying is you have to be patient here. You have to be patient, and we have to wait for the family to make their move. Because the family are the ones that hold the keys here. They're the ones that will decide whether this is done, this is a story that has reached its end, or they want it pushed. Because even if you want it pushed and the family don't, nobody's going to do anything. You will never learn what happened here. So you will have to make your own conclusion. And my conclusion here is that there was a mitigating factor that led Jay Slater to his demise. I do not believe that it was under his own volition that he ended up in the situation that he did. And I am hoping that eventually the loose lips will sink ships. We're seeing Brandon, who has gone completely off the radar, and I feel that Brandon potentially holds the key to some information here that could lead some light, on this story. Lucy, again, has seemingly gone off the radar, but that could purely be because she is getting hammered. I don't mean getting hammered I mean she's getting hammered online. You've got Rocky and Bullwinkle, who are my interpretation of what's going on there is that they've seen an angle, they can work and earn something off it, and that's what they're going to do. It's whether people fall for it or not. You've got Brad, who again, he's kind of gone off the radar as well. You've got Mark William Thomas, whatever his fucking name is. He's now trying to distance himself from all the bullshit that he said and played a huge part in exacerbating issues. But yeah, this is just one where people are going to have to be patient. Don't put yourself in a position where you're placed at risk. And the common thread throughout all this has been the saying that if you stick to the truth, then you'll be okay. Ayub himself said, if you're just telling the truth, then there's no issues. But we have already seen that they're not telling the truth. There are issues with their story. And I think what he meant by that is if we stick to our story and we all have the same story, then we'll all be all right. And it's whether everybody, every cog in that machine, can indeed stick to their story over time. So the longer that we can keep this out and keep pushing and keep forcing people to speak, the more of a chance there is that someone is going to say something out of place. But that's all we can do. Be patient. Let's keep it up. Let's keep watching, keep looking, keep the attention, keep the eyes on it until we simply can't do it anymore. Let me know down below what questions you have in this case. What is your primary red flag? And I'll catch you all in the next one.